We're here in Treasure Cay, and we've been in the Bahamas for just over 2 months now, and we're starting to think about heading back to Florida. But we haven't done a budget update in 4+ months, so we thought we'd do one now and just do 4 months at once. And this is actually the fourth time we've tried to do this video. The first time we lost the recording when we tried to copy it. We didn't lose it, but it got corrupted somehow. And the second time last night, it was too windy. We were on the beach just behind us, about 200 meters back. Today, I think it's May 4th, and beautiful setting, but just too much wind. And just about 5 minutes ago, we realized Sandra was wearing her sunglasses.
Oh my God, I've had my sunglasses on the whole time.
So we decided to scrub the video that we were about halfway through on. So here we go with number 4, and hopefully fourth time lucky.
We're on a bit of a hill here, so it's a little bit uncomfortable
so
for both of us.
we're struggling a bit.
So we also haven't published any YouTube videos for a couple of months, and we arrived in the Bahamas and we just wanted to take a break. I was particularly burnt out on a number of fronts, and we decided that I needed to pull back from a few things, and the YouTube was the one that I could pull back on. My other responsibilities I couldn't. So anyway, so we're going to start with December. We did put these numbers up in front of anyone who came to our talk at the Toronto Boat Show, but we'll do it here as well. Eating out, groceries, and this is all in Canadian currency. Probably not going to put up the US currency because there's probably no room on the screen anymore. But just multiply these numbers by either 0.7, 0.75. It hasn't been a great exchange rate for Canadians traveling in the US, but it is what it is. So our big-ish item in December was docking fees. And some of that was a holdover from November when we were in Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah, we were on the hard for 2 weeks there, prepping the boat for the ocean.
So those costs fell into December because we left there about December 5th, and that's when we paid the bill. There were boat maintenance fees in December of about $1,300. Again, Chris can talk more about that. I'm really sliding back on this hill. That's a little bit better.
Yeah, that was the bow thruster that got damaged while I was changing the zincs out, and that was about $1,000 American, so that was probably the bulk of that cost.
Yeah, there was some paint and some packing for the shaft and a couple other things, but yeah, those ones, that made up the bulk of the $1,300. So that month was $8,600, a little higher than we've had before. But again, the previous month in November was a bit lower, so it kind of evens out. January, eating out was a bit higher. We were back in Toronto at the boat show, and we were seeing family and friends. Groceries weren't as expensive because we weren't actually on the boat buying groceries. Docking fees were pretty good because in January we were mostly on mooring balls.
Yeah, in Fort Myers Beach in Sarasota.
Yeah, for quite a while actually of the month, and it was much more reasonable to do that. The other big cost in January was side trips, and that kind of encompasses our trip to Toronto. So January was about 5,500 Canadian. Our biggest month was February. Eating out was a little higher than usual, about the same as January. February we were trying to think what we were doing in February.
Bahia Honda.
Bahia Honda. We don't know how to pronounce it. We do it differently.
Yeah. Miami.
Everglades City, we ate out a couple times. Miami, when Nancy and Andrew came, yes. Right, so when the guys took the boat over here to the Bahamas, Nancy and I stayed in Miami Beach. I stayed with her for a couple of days, and we enjoyed the cuisine. So it was a little higher than usual. Also, marina fees were a bit higher than usual in February. We stayed at Everglades City for 4 days, which was $150 US a night. That was kind of a treat. It was a nice marina.
Yeah.
But that accounted for it. Bahia Honda for 10 days.
Yeah, but having said that they were expensive, I mean, Bahia Honda was $2 a foot, and the municipal marina in Miami was maybe $250 a foot. Crandon
Marina.
Park. They were quite nice, and so I guess it was a bit expensive, but nowhere near what we had been led to believe it would be when we hit southern Florida.
Because we didn't stay at any of the marinas in Marathon or Key West or anything, which can get up to $7 a foot. We anchored in Marathon one night. We were at Bahia Honda, which was gorgeous. If you're down in that area, that's a really good staging point to see other parts of the Keys without too much expense. And even though they say that it's only 3.5 draft that can get in there, they do dredge it sometimes. And we had friends that draw 4.5 on a sailboat, and they took them in there. They said they had to wait for high tide, but they took them in there, and they just had to time their departure. So don't let that not make you not go there, because that is a beautiful, beautiful little marina in a park. Okay, so are we still in February? We are. Okay, so the big one in February, and there were fuel costs all along here. I haven't really mentioned them. I've been throwing them up on the screen, and Chris doesn't have any fuel numbers for today, but he'll do it for next month. But the big cost in February was definitely boat maintenance, and Chris had some planned, and then some was decided for us, and I'll let him talk about that.
Yeah, so in February, we had always planned to get a spare alternator, and I had always planned to put a higher output alternator in. So I put a 100 amp alternator in, which is a high output alternator, but it's still a small frame. So in other words, it can overheat still. So it's not a true high output alternator. But that was $1,000, the cost of that. And then I installed it. And then the unexpected cost, the solar panels, which we knew hadn't been doing very well for quite some time, like coming pretty much the whole time coming down the river and hitting Florida, they weren't doing well. And by the time we hit Florida, or Miami, I took a look at them, and they were in pretty bad shape. 2 of the 3 were in pretty bad shape. Originally, when I installed the panels, I installed them running bow to stern. And what that meant practically was that they went over the support struts in the bimini. And then what that meant was that when it got really windy out, the wind would easily get under the solar panels and cause them to flap. And if the wind got really strong, it would actually tear the panel off, like the magnets would come off. And then this panel would be dangling. And that motion really damaged 2 of the panels. One of them was quite torn, and the other one had damage on the surface. So they were still working, just not well at all. So, and my original plan was to install, the whole reason I ran them in that direction was that would have let me install 2 parallel strings. So I would have had 525 amps times 2. So over 1,000 amps in parallel. And because I gave up on that, I'm now running them in the other direction, and what I did in my planning in Miami is I added a 4th panel. So I replaced 2 and I bought a 3rd. So now I have 4 panels in total. And what that means is, number one, they're running such that there are no struts underneath them, so the wind isn't catching them. We now take them down when it gets over 30 nautical miles gusts. And because I've got the 4 panels in series, the charging period every day is longer because it actually hits its minimum earlier in the morning. So kind of a double whammy. So we've got a longer charging period every day, and it's worked out really well. So
it's been fabulous, actually. We've been out on the hook for 10 days at a time here.
Yeah.
And we've never gone below 70%. And it's really been between 70 and 80%. And Chris turns the hot water tank on once a day, so we have hot water during the day. I've been baking potatoes in the oven. We've been doing desserts. We've been doing all sorts of things without really worrying about it too much. It does help that it's super sunny over here, even when it's cloudy. Like there's a bit of cloud today. This certainly hasn't been the cloudiest day we've had, but even on cloudy days, we pick up a lot of gain.
Yeah.
So it was a good move for over here. But a lot of the cost of this wasn't just for the solar panels. It was the whole.
Yeah, I figured because I was in Miami, I'd have no problem sourcing panels. I was wrong. I mean, there's no problem sourcing panels, but it's the lead time to get them. So I I ended up having to order the panels, and we had a set crossing date because I was crossing with my brother.
And it was the only window anyway.
And the window was good, so we decided to cross, and the panels didn't show up, and so I had to send the panels to the Bahamas, which increased the shipping by about $500. Fortunately,
American.
panels are solar panels are duty free in the Bahamas, but it took a long time for them to get there.
So we waited at a marina there for probably 12, 13 days.
Yeah.
Waiting for them, and it was just everything was delayed. That's all, and
Yeah.
eventually it was fine. But that also increased marina fees for February. Although the reason the marina fees are expensive there is because Chris prepaid for a week while we were there. So some of March's stay actually it was in February. So that month was $14,100, and I'd say that it was high regardless, but definitely the boat maintenance, and we added a few things to the boat for safety.
Yeah, we added a Garmin Reach just because...
InReach.
InReach because
Garmin
of the distance we were offshore. That just means that if the worst happens and we have to, whatever we have to do, we're able to guarantee contact somebody by satellite. So,
and the kids really liked it. And our niece and nephew really liked to be able to follow their dad, my brother-in-law, because they were sending pings out every 30 minutes, and we could see exactly where they were. So it was kind of neat.
So that was another $600, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it all added up. And
we subscribed to Chris Parker's weather.
Oh, right.
Thing,
I forgot about
which
that.
Which is about $140 a month.
Yeah, so he does marine forecasting all for the East Coast of the United States, the Bahamas,
and the Caribbean.
And then the Caribbean. And it just it's that added level of knowing that you're picking the right days because somebody who actually does it full time is agreeing with you. And part of your subscription means you can pretty much ask questions and get answers in the meetings. It's quite good.
You can just say, look, I'm I go this fast. I'm thinking of leaving wherever at this time. Do you think I can, what would it be like? Would it be whatever? And it's usually him, but sometimes it is somebody else. And they kind of look at it and they say, yeah, this will probably be a good trip. So it was just an added level of comfort.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a $14,000 month, unfortunately. Anyway, March. So March, eating out got a little bit lower. What we've discovered here in the Bahamas is the food is pretty much the same no matter where you go. It tends to be fried food for the most part, which is fine. I mean, we enjoy fried food. We just don't enjoy it all the time. And so we've tended to eat on the boat a little bit more. And then if we go out for a drink or something. So we didn't spend as much eating out. We didn't spend as much on groceries because obviously we were eating down our supplies. We did spend money on groceries, but I mean, it was mostly fresh produce and things like that. Marina fees in March were pretty low because some of it was prepaid from February, but also we've been anchoring out a ton since we got here. March, not so much as April, and April we're expecting to be really good for low marina costs.
Right. I mean, we think overall it'll be one of our lower months.
Yes, and probably, and this month probably in May, hopefully.
Yeah, except for groceries. We spent a fair bit on groceries.
Yeah, well, in April, I don't know, we'll have to see the numbers, but I'm expecting April to be a low month as well. Boat maintenance in March was really just a lot of residual things with February, more broker fees, a bunch of other things. So that whole thing, I wouldn't suggest getting parts shipped here unless you absolutely have to. Get your parts ahead of time, have redundancy. You're not always going to be able to foreshadow everything that happens, including something that happened to us with our macerator, but we really lucked out on that one.
Yeah, so the macerator, I figure it's never really been tested or used before we used it. And it's been in the boat for a while, at least a decade, if not longer. And it worked when we were first crossing over, but I think what happened, and I did test it before we came across.
And he didn't discharge it into Florida waters. That was all done with buckets and everything, so no worries there.
I think what happened is the first time it ran, it primed, and so then it kept going. But the what it turned out that the impeller was in such bad shape that I'm assuming what happened is it was so dry and cracked that it successfully primed, but it also shredded itself that first time it was running. And so I had to take everything apart to figure out that was the problem, which wasn't very pleasant.
Crappy job.
And then we were in Marsh Harbor here in the Abacos, and I figured it would be really, really hard to get apart, to get an impeller. So I went to National Marine, which is just a local supplier in Marsh Harbor, and it turned out they didn't have anything on the shelf. And when I went and talked to them at the desk, she pulled out a box of what she called all the supplies that got, did water damage from Dorian.
Got spread around when Dorian took the roof off.
So the hurricane, it was a hurricane, right?
What did I say?
I don't know. I'm asking
it was
you.
a hurricane. When Hurricane Dorian took the roof off
so
of everything.
they had a box of parts, and one of the things in that box was impeller that just happened to be the same size as the one in her pump. So I thought that was pretty amazing, and she only charged me $10. So,
but that doesn't often happen here.
that was I thought I was going to be paying a lot of money for that.
We've heard
impeller.
stories of people needing certain pumps for their systems, and where they might pay $300 in the States, they're paying $1,200 to get it here.
Yeah, so everything.
Contingency fund is important.
Yeah, I mean, we planned for spare parts. Like I already said, we planned to have a spare alternator. We have other spares for the engine, but there are a lot of things that we're not covered on. Like if our freshwater pump went, or
except that I have about 4 gallons of fresh water hidden away.
Yeah, but
we'd manage till we could limp in somewhere.
I mean, we'd manage. You could get at the fresh water, but that would be a real hassle.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how you'd. I don't think you can protect against every eventuality. It is what it is.
Money will solve every boat problem. So, unfortunately. Right. So March was about $4,000 Canadian, which was really good. A note about all of this in the Bahamas is that there are no pump outs at marinas, or at least we've never seen one. And we've heard that there aren't that many in the Bahamas at all. So you will, if you come over, you're going to need to pump your waste overboard and follow the rules about doing that. Yeah,
so from Grand Bahama Island, Freeport, West End, Freeport, through the Abacos, I have not seen one pump out.
No.
Not one.
At any of the marinas we've been at.
Yeah.
And you will get charged for fresh water. It's fairly reasonable, we thought, anywhere from 10 cents a gallon to 35 cents a gallon. We carry 150 gallons, so, filling it at 10 cents is only like $15. Much more affordable than getting a water maker. And because of the cruising that we do, the water maker doesn't make any sense for us right now.
Yeah.
The other thing and so water is typically included in the marina fees, so I haven't listed it separately here. The other thing that is indicative laundry, very expensive here. Easily $5 a load, sometimes $6 a load. And I'm not talking about both of them, I'm talking about each. Like the washing machine is $5 to $6 American or Bahamian dollars, and then the dryer is. So it gets very expensive to do laundry here.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things,
in the grand scheme of things, it's a small cost overall.
It's just a little shocking.
It was a bit shocking. We're so used to, fresh water on demand and electricity that doesn't cost us very much. Okay, so the grand total for the 9 months is about $56,000. It averages to about $6,200, which is higher than our average was a couple months ago. But there were a couple of months with boat things that we had to take care of. So we're still pretty pleased with that. I'm guessing from talking to other boaters that we're probably middle of the road for expenses.
And here in the Bahamas, March kind of shows it. I think April's going to bear it out. It's pretty inexpensive if you anchor. And, even with the increased grocery costs and the occasional marina stay to fill up on fresh water, that kind of thing. It's not
outrageously expensive.
Pretty reasonable, even though it feels expensive because everything is more expensive.
And I think if we came back here, which we may do, I think what we would probably do is get a portable freezer. Even though we're really happy with how our freezer has done for space, we if we put a bag of ice in there, then we diminish the amount of room we have for food. I think we would probably get a portable freezer and stock up on frozen food before we left North America, just because that's one of the most expensive things, meat and fruit. And I eat frozen fruit quite happily, so being able to, and frozen fruit here, what I would usually pay $14 for in North America has sometimes been $35 a bag. So that's almost more expensive than meat. So that's one thing that we would probably do, and we'd probably make the boat a little bit more comfortable. It's been fine, but being on anchor for 10 days and the shower and the heads are a little small. Anyway, that's all stuff for some other time. Just a little additional information. With all our anchoring that we've been doing, and this includes April, we are now at 32% of the time at anchor or on a mooring ball or at a free dock. And a couple months ago in January, I think we were still at about 24%. So we've really increased that, and I think May will make it a lot better. And I think Chris was kind of hoping that we would, for this trip, that we might do 50-50 or better, but I don't know, we're getting there. We'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's it for the budget. We are hoping to get more videos coming out. Big thank you to people who reached out to us and asked if we were okay, because we kind of dropped off the radar there for a little while, except for the occasional reel that I posted on our Facebook page and Instagram. But as Chris mentioned, we just really wanted to take it easy here. And after coming down the river system and all the storms in Florida, we just really wanted to enjoy our time here. So, but we'll get back at it. It won't be at the same pace of videos that I was doing before. I was trying to keep it at weekly, but who knows if we'll keep it up to that or not. Okay, I think I'm done. And this is really uncomfortable sitting here.
Yeah,
My feet are absolutely numb, and I really want to shift.
Yeah,
I'm going to hobble away. All right, see you next time.
Yeah, bye.
Hey, darling.
Thanks for sticking with us as we go through 4 months of looping costs. If you'd like to see each of the 9 months side by side, I'll include the entire spreadsheet below. We are slowly returning to sharing our journey here on YouTube. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Go That Away. We desperately needed a break from everything the last few months, but next up, we pick up where we left off, moving up the Florida Keys to the Miami area, where we stage for the Gulf Stream crossing to the Bahamas. If you haven't already, please subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. Questions and comments, welcome. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Let's get out, we can leave this.